Welcome back, boys and girls, to episode 8 of Physical Preparedness Group Radio. In this episode, we're going to be talking about fitness, fatigue, and what they have to do with each other, and why your lack of understanding them is preventing you from getting really, really strong and in really, really good shape. Before we begin the episode proper, I would like to thank our first and oldest sponsor, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. They have been a big sponsor of the show and recently just signed over $1 billion ad deal to us. You know, and I know that the Chinese want to take over America, and when they do, they're going to need a slave army. Do you think that they want a morbidly obese slave army? No, they don't. They want a good, strong, healthy, in-shape slave army, and so they're doing everything they can to make sure that when they finally do take over every American institution and enslave every American citizen, that we are going to be a healthy and fit people that are ready for hard labor, salt mines, coal mines, uranium mines, you name it, we'll be ready for it. So big thank you to them. Now on with the show. So I've been getting a lot of questions lately from guys who have been lifting consistently, running consistently, and they're anywhere from 20 to in their late 30s, and they've built up a good base of fitness. They're not beginners anymore. They've kind of got a good strength level going and a good endurance level going, but they seem to have hit a wall in their own estimation. They either can't make progress on their lifts, their runs are kind of stagnating, they might have even had an injury, and it's kind of nagging, they can't seem to get past it. And so I kind of get the same question over and over. What do I need to do to make progress? What do I need to do to continue to get better? Because, I've been lifting for 5 to 10 years, and I feel like I can't get past this certain level of fitness, and I feel like I'm just kind of spinning my wheels. And so one of my biggest responsibilities as a coach is to teach you about the idea of fitness and fatigue and their relationship. If you look at this illustration here, you're going to notice a certain process that your body goes through, not just session to session, but also week to week, month to month, and over the course of years. So the baseline is our current level of fitness. And then when we go into the gym, we have a hard training session. We induce a stress, which is labeled here as alarm. And so that novel stimulus is going to dip down our performance because we're generating stress, we're generating fatigue, and so our body goes into a state where it's trying to recover. In that state, like you can see demonstrated with the illustration, our ability to lift heavy weights, our ability to run hard and fast for long periods of time goes down. But once the recovery process begins, which is pretty much immediately, by sleeping good, eating good, and staying hydrated, you can see our ability to perform eventually returns to baseline and then surpasses that original baseline, and it becomes what's called an adaptation, which means we not only recovered and got back to our former fitness level, but we actually got a little bit better, which is obviously what we're aiming for. As you can see, the illustration goes on to demonstrate the effect of detraining if we go too long without an appropriate training stimulus, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're just going to focus on the first portion of the illustration. And it's very important to understand that your body has to go through this process in order for you to get stronger, in order for you to gain muscle mass, in order for you to improve your cardiovascular endurance, everything. And so for most guys, when they're not seeing progress, they're plateaued, or even a lot of the times when they're getting injured or experiencing pain, it's because they don't understand this process sufficiently, and it's because they're not trying to optimize this process as much as possible. The big problem that most guys run into is that they spend too much time in that state of alarm. They spend too much time in a fatigue deficit, under that baseline of fitness where their body's in a state of trying to recover. And what they do is their body's trying to recover, but they just keep slamming themselves with heavy deadlifts, heavy squats, heavy bench. They just keep running and running and running because they want to train hard and they want to push themselves, and that's how they think they're going to make progress, which is true to a large extent, but there's a diminishing rate of returns, and eventually you have to start training smarter and harder, not just harder. Those of you guys who are a little bit older or maybe have a longer injury history, I think are going to be able to sympathize with this a little bit more. You younger guys who haven't maybe experienced injuries, who are still flowing with testosterone, your schedule is really light, and so you're able to dedicate a lot of your time and mental focus to the gym. You guys might still have that mentality that I can just go into the gym, push myself to the limit every single time, and I'm going to see progress. And that's going to be true for some of you. But for a lot of you, you're going to get to the point where that just doesn't cut it anymore because your body can't recover. And if it can't recover, it can't make those adaptations. And a lot of you guys are spending all your time just barely recovering from your workouts. And you're not allowing your body to make those adaptations and get above baseline, get above your former levels of fitness, because your body's having to work so hard just to recover to get back to how it used to be before you induced that hard training stress. So the difficult question then becomes, how do we induce enough stress to optimally make progress while managing the fatigue that comes along with that stimulus? The reality is that there is no easy answer, largely because everybody's so different, and because these points of fitness and fatigue and baseline that we're talking about don't stay the same. They're not fixed points that we can easily measure. So what we do is look for certain key indicators that allow us to have a general idea of how our body's performing. So I'm going to share some of those key indicators that I look for in my own training and the training of my athletes. One of those big key indicators is going to be bar speed. Let's say 1 week you squat 225 for 5 sets of 5, and each rep feels pretty smooth, the bar's moving relatively fast, you're not having to exert all your effort into each rep, and you don't feel like you're going to die after the workout concludes. But then the next week you come in and you try and lift 235 or 230, and you really struggle to get like the last 2 or 3 sets done, and the reps are kind of slow and grinding, and you feel very, very burnt out after the workout. That is probably a good indicator that you are in a state of fatigue and that your body is trying to recover. Because the previous week you had a very good performance, and this week you made a very small adjustment in weight, and yet your performance dropped significantly. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to deload or take the week off or do anything crazy, but what it does mean is that your body's most likely trying to recover. So what do? Let's say you did that really hard 5x5 with 235 on a Friday, and you're planning to go in and heavy deadlift on Monday. Because we know we're in that state of fatigue and our body's trying to recover, it's probably a good idea for you to not go as hard as you were planning on deadlifts. That way you can still get in a stimulative training session, but not put yourself in such a fatigue deficit that you're not recovering. So maybe the plan for that heavy deadlift the following Monday was 275 for a 5x5. Maybe you do 5 sets of 3 with 225, but you pause the reps. Or you do 245 for 5 sets of 3. You lower the volume a little tiny bit. You lower the intensity, the weight on the bar a little tiny bit. That way you can still get in some work. You don't want to take time off, but you're doing something that's a little less intense so that your body can still go through that process of recovery. I'm trying my best to keep these videos under 10 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up here. If you enjoyed the ideas that I discussed in this video, or you found the key indicator that I discussed useful, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because in the next video I'm going to get into more specifics about how you can intelligently manage the fitness to fatigue ratio so that you can experience optimal progress in your strength and conditioning training. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.